grim darkness of the far future in Warhammer 40,000 is defined by constant war, religious fanaticism, and the ever-present threat of chaos. At the heart of this dystopian setting lies the Emperor of Mankind, a psychic colossus whose existence is intrinsically linked to the survival of the Imperium of Man. For 10 millennia, he has sat upon the Golden Throne, a life support system on Terra, his psychic presence a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. But what if the Emperor was to finally die? What cataclysmic events would be unleashed, and what would become of the Imperium he forged? This video will delve into the potential consequences, exploring the myriad factors that would contribute to the aftermath of such a monumental event. We will explore the details of the potential outcomes and examine the complex web of power, faith, and psychic energy that binds the Imperium together. Greetings all, I'm your guide, the Archivist. Today I will dive into an overview of the Emperor of Mankind, and if he finally died. Before we begin, please make sure to like the like and subscribe waypoints down below, so that more people can learn from the archives. The Imperium of Man is not a monolithic, stable entity. It is a sprawling, bureaucratic nightmare riddled with corruption, inefficiency, and internal conflict. Its survival depends on a delicate balance, maintained primarily by the Emperor's psychic might. The Astronomicon, a psychic beacon powered by the Emperor, guides ships through the treacherous warp, allowing for interstellar travel and communication. Without it, the Imperium would be fractured into isolated pockets, easy prey for its enemies. Furthermore, the Emperor's psychic presence safeguards the human race from complete psychic annihilation by chaos, holding back the tides of the warp and subtly influencing events across the galaxy. The Imperium's faith in the God Emperor is another crucial element of its existence. This faith, propagated by the Adeptus Ministorum, the Ecclesiarchy, acts as a powerful unifying force, binding billions together in a common purpose. However, it is also a source of fanaticism and intolerance, leading to persecution and war against perceived heretics. This unwavering faith, paradoxically, also relies on the Emperor's continued existence, fueling his psychic powers. Before we can discuss the aftermath of his death, it's crucial to understand the details of what keeps the Emperor alive and what he currently does for the Imperium. The Golden Throne is not just a life support system, it's a complex machine that amplifies and focuses the Emperor's psychic energy. These energies are used to power the Astronomicon, suppress warp incursions, and project a sense of hope across the galaxy. Without these functions, the Imperium would quickly crumble. The Emperor's death would unleash a cascade of devastating consequences, threatening the very existence of humanity. One of the most immediate and impactful events would be the weakening or even extinguishing of the Astronomicon. Without this guiding light, interstellar travel would become incredibly dangerous, effectively isolating planets and systems across the Imperium. Supply lines would be severed, communication would break down, and the worlds would be left to fend for themselves against external threats. This would lead to widespread famine, economic collapse, and internal war. The Emperor's psychic presence acts as a shield against the warp, preventing the chaotic energies from spilling into real space. His death would weaken this barrier, allowing warp storms to erupt across the galaxy. These storms would further disrupt travel and communication, and more importantly, they would provide gateways for demonic incursions. Planets would be overrun by demons, and the Imperium's military forces would be stretched thin trying to contain the outbreaks. Some speculate that the Emperor's death could empower the existing Chaos Gods or even lead to the birth of new ones. His immense psychic energy, upon release, could be absorbed by the warp, potentially creating a new entity aligned with either order or destruction, depending on the prevailing forces within the warp at the moment of his passing. This new god could either be a boon or a curse for humanity, but in all likelihood, it would be another threat to the Imperium's survival. The power vacuum created by the Emperor's death would inevitably lead to internal conflict and civil war. The High Lords of Terra, the governing body of the Imperium, would likely fracture into warring factions, each vying for control. The Adeptus Mechanicus, the priesthood of Mars, might seize the opportunity to assert its independence or even attempt to replace the emperor with a machine god. The ecclesiarchy, shaken by the loss of their god emperor, could descend into infighting and religious extremism. The Space Marine chapters, the Imperium's elite warriors, might also take sides, further escalating the conflict. The Emperor's death could also trigger a galaxy-wide psychic awakening across humanity. While some of these newly awakened psychers might become powerful defenders of the Imperium, many would be uncontrolled and vulnerable to the corrupting influence of chaos. This could lead to widespread mutation, madness, and demonic possession, further destabilizing the Imperium. While the Emperor's death would be undoubtedly a catastrophic event, it is not entirely impossible to imagine scenarios where the Imperium could survive, albeit in a drastically altered form. As mentioned before, the release of the Emperor's psychic energy could lead to the birth of a new god within the warp. If that entity is benevolent and aligned with the interests of humanity, it could potentially replace the Emperor as the Imperium's protector, guiding it through the darkness. This is a highly unlikely scenario, as the warp is a realm of chaos and corruption, but it is not entirely outside the realm of possibility in Warhammer 40,000. A charismatic leader could also emerge, uniting the fractured Imperium under a new banner. This leader would need to possess exceptional political skills, military prowess, and perhaps even psychic abilities to inspire hope and rally the masses. This leader could reform the Imperium, addressing its flaws and implementing new strategies to combat the threats it faces. The Adeptus Mechanicus might discover a way to reactivate the Golden Throne or develop a new technology that could replicate the Emperor's psychic functions. This would require a monumental technological breakthrough, but the Mechanicus are known for their ingenuity and their relentless pursuit of knowledge. The Imperium could splinter into smaller independent states, each focused on its own survival. While this would be a far cry from the unified Imperium envisioned by the Emperor, it might be the only way for humanity to avoid complete extinction. These independent states could eventually form alliances or even reunite in the future, but the Imperium as it currently exists would be gone forever. This scenario would mirror the Age of Strife, a period of galactic anarchy that preceded the Emperor's rise to power. The death of the Emperor of Mankind would be a cataclysmic event, unleashing a wave of destruction and chaos upon the Imperium. The Astronomicon would fail, warp storms would erupt, demonic incursions would increase, and the internal conflict would tear the Imperium apart. While there are theoretical scenarios where humanity might survive, they are all predicated on improbable events and would require significant changes to the established law. The details of the immediate aftermath would be horrifying, and the long-term consequences would be devastating. Ultimately, the question of what might happen if the Emperor died is a fascinating thought experiment that highlights the fragility of the Imperium and the importance of its continued existence. It serves as a stark reminder that in the grim darkness of the far future, the constant struggle for survival in the Warhammer 40k verse is never-ending. The Imperium, built on faith, fear, and the psychic might of a dying god, teeters on the brink of collapse, and the Emperor's death would undoubtedly be the catalyst that sends it spiraling into oblivion. The Imperium currently stands on a precipice, and the potential consequences of the Emperor's demise paint a grim picture of what could be lurking just beyond the horizon. And so I've now covered the content for this video. If there's anything that has been missed, please share them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to like the like and subscribe waypoints down below. In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war.